Hi, my name is Tina Tierney, and it gives me great pleasure to share with you my favorite wintertime recipe. Here in Michigan, we have 6 inches of snow on the ground today, so I'm making cheese fondue. It's an authentic recipe from Switzerland. The first thing you're going to need is a fondue pot. If you don't have a fondue pot, I recommend you get one, but if you want to make this before you get your fondue pot, you could use a regular pan and make this on the stove anyway, because as you're going to see, this fondue pot, the only difference is I have the fondue maker, which after we've melted our cheese on the stove, we're going to put it over the sterno fire, which will keep the cheese melty. If you don't have a fondue pot and you make this on the stove, be aware that after a few minutes your cheese will begin to harden again, and then you return it to the stove on a low heat. So you'll have to do it in increments of eating it. So that's why you have a fondue pot, because this little sterno keeps the cheese melted while you're relaxing and enjoying, and you can take your time eating it. So the first thing you're going to need is 1 clove of garlic peeled. Take your clove of garlic and you're going to take the clove and you're going to make sure and rub it all over the bottom and up the sides as high as your cheese is going to be melted. You rub that in for extra flavoring. And I've already smashed that one up, so I'm going to take another clove just to make sure that it's all infused with my favorite food flavoring, which is garlic. I love garlic in so many recipes. It really makes a difference. You might think, oh, it's not that much garlic, but no, it does make a difference to the preparation. The next thing you're going to need, we're going to use a little less for this demonstration, but when you're at home, you're going to use 2 different types of cheese. And as you see here, you're going to peel the cheese and cube them. You're going to use gruyere cheese, and you're also going to use emmentaler cheese, which is the fancier version of a Swiss cheese. So emmentaler and gruyere. 3/4 pound emmentaler cheese and 1.5 pounds of gruyere. What you're going to do then is you're going to take your cheese, put it into your fondue pot, and begin to cook it on your stove. This is going to take approximately 5 minutes to cook that. Once the cheese is melted down, we're going to be using a dry white wine or a semi-dry white wine. This one happens to be an inexpensive white wine. It's Dr. Beckerman's. It's a Ausleis Rheinhessen wine from Germany. So the next step, we've now melted our cheese. It took about approximately 10 minutes to melt all the cheese, and now it's time to add some wine. Now if you want to measure it out, I would recommend starting with about a 1/2 cup to 3/4 cup. I'm just going to eye it out in this case, because I know approximately just by eyeing it out how much I'm going to need for the amount of cheese. And if you'll just take a look to see that now you have to stir it, you have to stir the wine in, because you have to infuse it in to your recipe. So I'm stirring, and once you get it all soft, I'm going to reduce the heat down to the lowest amount as I keep stirring, because now we need to blend the cheese in with that wine. So stir for approximately 3 minutes, and once you feel that you have the wine stirred into it enough, you're going to be adding a mixture of, you're going to be adding 1 lemon, we're going to add 1 lemon to that wine. This is 1 fresh squeezed lemon that we're adding in. And once you get the lemon all infused with the wine and the cheese, it will be time to add 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. Now to add the cornstarch in, you have to add a little wine into the mixture. I'm taking 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. I'm going to put that in a cup. And then I'm going to add approximately 2 tablespoons of wine. And you're going to mix this mixture until it becomes smooth. What makes it smooth is when you can no longer see any lumps in the cornstarch. This is the same kind of mixture you use when you're making homemade gravies. And it's the cornstarch, of course, that's doing the thickening for your fondue at this point. So now I'm going to re-stir, and I have lemon in there, and I have wine. And before I put that in, I want to show you the texture. The texture is very thin, actually. Now, if you were to dip your bread in this fondue, it would be way too liquidy and drippy. Now, instead of adding the entire amount of cornstarch, I'm only going to add half of it at this point, because sometimes, because I put a little less cheese in here, I want to make sure that I don't overdo it, because if you overdo the amount of cornstarch that you're adding to your fondue, it's going to get way too thick. So you don't want that happening. So what I'm doing, once you pour that cornstarch in, you have to continually stir. And even though I have this on the lowest flame on my stove, it's still a little bit too high. Now what happens is the pan turns a little bit brown. But actually my husband claims that's his favorite part of the fondue, on the inside where the cheese gets a little bit too brown. That's his favorite part. He thinks that when we're done with fondue, he likes to take the part and scrape that cheese off of the pot. So if you'll take a look at the texture I now have is much thicker, and that'll work. We're going to settle for that. So the next thing I'm going to do is put the cheese back over the fondue, and it's now ready for dipping. So what we have here as a companion to our fondue, we have toasted garlic toast. And by the way, I've used a baguette. French baguettes are best for your bread. I've used a garlic toast, but also, and it's a multi-grain baguette. You can use a French white bread, but I prefer multi-grain, is healthier for you. This is an untoasted whole grain baguette. And as a companion, we have the little gherkin pickles and some olives. I also recommend boiled potatoes would be excellent. Cube them up and you can dip that into your fondue. I also recommend salad. A fresh salad would be excellent. And stay tuned, I'm going to put my very favorite garlic and fresh lemon with parsley dressing. Also look for me on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and if you feel cold this winter, enjoy the winter by making a very robust, hearty cheese fondue. Enjoy your fondue, folks. See you next time.
Edit, see, or video.